for the trunk. Wake up the neighborhood when it dump. Rather is rock bass and easy rock we pump. Like my old Reeboks. If you pop, I pump. Meaning I rock nothing and no one can stop me. Done. What I do, stop and stuff. Why not? I'm young. Probably see more Versace than pocket pun. Word to Migos. I move words by the kilo. Heard. I used to move birds with my amigos. Turn it up, man. Turn the volume up, banging out the truck now. Turn the volume up, banging out the truck now. Turn the volume up, banging out the truck now. Turn the volume up, banging out the truck now. I'm about to turn it up.
That's what I'm talking about. There you go. Let's run this back.
Welcome to another episode of On the Red Carpet with Tick podcast. Today, we have our first AAA developer. As you guys know, we do a big indie movement and we have a lot of connections with the Xbox community. But today, we are talking to two developers from EA about their new NBA Live 2016. I'm really excited to really talk about. Today we have with us Sean O'Brien, executive producer of the game, and Ryan Santos, senior designer of the game. Welcome, guys. Really appreciate you coming on the show.
Oh, thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us, man.
Thank you. I'm a big NBA Live fan. I grew up on Super Nintendo, and Live 95 with John Starks on the cover was my game. Okay. You know, I think it was 95 or Live 94. But it just was so synonymous as being one of those franchises. When Live came out, you knew that was the premier basketball game. It's somewhere along the way, with the rise of 2K, we've kind of lost what Live used to be. Can you explain to us what's different about this year's Live, and how is it separating itself from the negative aspects of some of the older Lives?
Well, I would say for the most part, NBA Live has had a tough go in the last, let's call it 5 years. We stand by, both Ryan and I worked on NBA Live 10 when we were at EA Canada, and we really liked the way that that game turned out, and sort of the tail end of Gen 3. But for a number of different reasons, I think that the NBA Live franchise kind of lost its way. And then in the meantime, it moved, the development team, or the development location moved from Vancouver down here to Orlando, Florida. And I think that transition always comes with a lot of learning. And all the inherent knowledge that you have making a game, especially a sports game where you're iterating every single year, there's a lot of knowledge that you learn and you sort of obtain over the course of a couple of years that really helps you do your job, regardless of what you're doing. If you're an engineer, an animator, an artist, a producer, designer, whatever. And I think that, the team down here was just getting started, and it's a big challenge. And then, you have Gen 4 coming along, and there's obviously new hardware, new expectations from players. And so both Ryan and myself relocated our families from Vancouver. And this is, like we said, this is a labor of love for us. And we're in a position, speaking for myself, like I've been involved with, NBA Live and EA Sports Basketball since 1996. And that probably dates a little bit, but I was a very young man at the time. But this is something that we're coming down here to really rebuild this franchise. And I think the identity that we're trying to carve out, you'll find in some of the roots where Ryan comes from with NBA Live and NBA Street, with what we did on NBA Live 10. We talk a lot about self-expression and giving the player the control on the court to do what you want with the control in your hand through gameplay, and at the same time to express yourself off the court with everything that we're doing, and really trying to create a bit of a sports RPG, and all the player customization and progression that's involved in the game and across the game. And then that combined with creating a bit of an online playground to allow you to really play with your friends and compete with your friends, and do it in a social way. And I think you'll see that in NBA Live 16, and that's a bit of our identity that we're starting to carve out, and we'll continue to push that and go in that direction, in the years to come.
That's an amazing thing to think about. I myself am really big into RPGs, and to hear something that you have a system built where you have character development in the game is really impressive and is really intriguing, I think, to a lot of people. I think one of the things that people love about Madden, obviously, is the ability to build a franchise. And the one thing that I miss about NCAA was that it had a lot of those RPG elements in it based on character stats, how you build your team, what positions do you need, and just looking at the numbers overall. So what I want to ask is, as far as character development goes, how does the RPG elements help build your particular character? Maybe if you had a created character, or maybe some of the characters in the game themselves, in making your team better. Do the points apply on a end of season basis, a weekly basis, a monthly basis? How does that system work?
Yeah, Ryan here. I can go into some of the detail around our new progression system, but really it kind of starts with you as the player, right? Like, we wanted to really focus the experience around you creating yourself, scanning your face. Our mobile scanning app comes out September 8th, which will allow you to put your face in the game. So immediately you get that impact of like, hey, that's me, I'm in the game. And then as you create your player, you're going to be presented with a choice, which is going to really dictate how you progress in the game. So picking what your position and play style is, that's going to be a key choice you're going to make up front. And we present it in a way that really communicates what that change means and how it can impact your certain ratings. So if you pick a big, you can only level up your speed to a certain point. You have limitations on height and weight. So there's a lot of things we're doing to really balance the game and kind of guide you throughout your progression. So, an example would be, hey, I'm going to pick a shooting guard who's a shooter instead of a slasher. Well, it's going to be a lot cheaper for me to upgrade my shooting skills than it will be my dunking skills. Right. So really at that point, those choices matter when you decide to choose the type of player you want to be. And then the way we've refactored a whole progression system is when you go in and spend what we're calling skill points, which is the currency you earn for playing, those skill points can be applied to the various different skills. And we point out which ones are your key skills as well as other skills within the game. So like I said before, key skills will be cheaper for you to upgrade because that's the play style you're choosing. So, we're trying to prevent things where you could build a 7-foot center and just drop all your points into 3-point shooting and now you're on you know what I mean? So we're really trying to play up the idea of like, okay, you want to play this way, we're gonna help you play this way, and that'll help promote sort of this team atmosphere within, our pro-am mode, and we can get into that later. But, there's a lot of thought put into progression specifically around play styles, how you play with other people.
I'm really glad to hear that. I think one of the things I disliked about playing 2K back in the day, and not to keep referencing it, but you were able to create a player and you would play online against someone and they would be like a 7-foot point guard. And it's just, the height advantage is ridiculous, So it's really interesting that you guys are looking at it really kind of like how you would build a character in an RPG, limiting them with things that necessarily may not fit that character's build. And I really like the idea of that. Brandon, do you have any questions?
I definitely got to say I really appreciate the fact that you guys are using the RPG element style play as far as building a character. I think that really helps build a team, especially when you're trying to build a squad and one of the game modes that you guys have. Because, everybody can't be a shooter. Everybody can't be a dunker. Everybody, can't be 7 feet.
Yeah. And
it's all about putting a team together. But one of my questions in regards to gameplay is in 2000 in a Live 15 game, passing and shooting was a little bit off. It kind of improved over time as the game released. Was that something that you guys definitely looked at and thought for 16 that this definitely is something that we have to take a look at and get and tighten up?
Yeah, definitely. We got a lot of feedback from the community, and we looked at that feedback as we released different patches, trying to address some of those issues, but we knew that we'd have to kind of go back to the drawing board and look at it and see where we could really improve that responsiveness and control within shooting and passing. And then I could probably start with shooting first. Last year, you know, based on our shooting mechanics, you know, no matter what time you released, the animation was always the same. So you never really felt like you were in complete control. What we've done this year is, you know, based on when you release the shot button, the animation will actually release. So if you release early, it'll release early. If you release late, or if you release ideal, it'll actually show in the animation. So there's that instant sort of response, right, visually, when you're releasing the button. It'll also impact, you know, the way you play, because say you're a great shooter who can, you know, make successful early shots, then, you know, if the defense is starting to, you know, press on you and they're going to contest, you could release early and you may have a better chance of making it. So it gives you that added element of control within shooting. Then we looked at the shot feedback system and pretty much reworked it from the ground up based on the feedback we got. We started to make strides with it last year, but it wasn't telling the full story of, you know, why you missed the shot. It was telling you that you took a good shot, but, you know, people would get frustrated when you saw, you know, green for open shot and green for, you know, great release. And then you're like thinking, well, why did I not make this shot? So we looked at really exposing what's happening under the hood and showing you what the likelihood of your shot is going to go in, right? Like in the NBA, no one's 100% shooter, right? That's not real. That's not simulation. So what we've done is we created a new shot feedback system where we have a meter that shows you on the left-hand side what your release timing is. So we're giving you feedback of when to release at the top of your jump, which is the ideal spot. But then post-shot feedback, we're giving you a bar that shows the percentage and likelihood of you making the shot. So you may have like a big who's trying to shoot a three and he's a really low three-point shooter. If you shoot that, it'll probably be a low percentage shot, so maybe it'll be like 10% likelihood. It'll be color-coded too to give you that visual indication that it was probably a bad shot. And then if you miss it, we'll actually tell you low three-point rating. So there's all this feedback, you know, in the system to tell you why you missed so that you know what to do next time. Well, next time I should probably pass to a better shooter. There's also a new indicator on the player to show you your shot quality. So as you're moving around real time, it'll show you whether or not the quality of the shot is good, if he's open or if he's guarded. There's a threat meter that shows you when a defender becomes a threat to your shot. So there's a lot of this stuff that's, you know, helping our players be more successful. And it's also all within our setting system. You can hide stuff and customize the level of visualization you want. So as you start to learn the game and get used to it, you may be one of those guys who wants to shoot basically purely on look and feel. You can turn that stuff off, you know, if you feel like you're confident enough to make those shots. You don't need that help. But, yeah, we did a lot to our shooting system to really make it, one, way more responsive and also visualize, you know, what's a good shot and what's a bad shot.
I think that on the passing and catching part of it, too, we completely rebuilt that system and the way it works as well. So both the, you know, from a content standpoint, the actual animations that you're seeing, then also just the system itself and where you benefit from that is just that the control that you have over, you know, when you're passing, what the animation actually looks like, and then the results and what the catch looks like. And, you know, it sounds like basic stuff, but there's so many things that go into it, you know, from a contextual standpoint on, you know, what is the guy doing, you know, so I'm dribbling the basketball or I'm standing with the basketball and I press pass, you know, what's the desired outcome from that I'm looking for? And then on the same time, like, who am I throwing the ball to and what are they doing? And who are they and what skills do they have? So it seems like a superficial, you know, pretty obvious system to really have done well. But I agree with you. Both shooting and passing in 15 weren't, you know, weren't as good as we hoped they'd be and as desired. But I feel really good about both, you know, both those fundamentals in this year's game and just the overall feel, the quality of the animation, and just how things work overall.
Yeah, a good example of even just when we're talking about passing is, you know, before the catch, if you were to try to make a touch pass, for instance, you know, the player would catch the ball and then maybe bring the ball down low before making the pass again. Yeah, is now where he can catch it up high and then just quickly touch pass it without lowering his arms to the next player, right? And that's so nice. A bit of time gives you that extra responsiveness to quickly move the ball around. And then what we've done is we've added two major features to passing, which is one, the dribble handoff system. So you can now call for a dribble handoff by moving your left stick and pointing to any player, or just simply just holding the B button. But you hold the B button, basically a player is going to come towards you, and you know, you're going to hand off the ball to him. And then with the left stick, you can choose who you want to perform the dribble handoff with. The other thing is the touch passing system, which allows us to cue your pass before it actually before you catch it. So if you want to play like the Spurs and move the ball around the perimeter and get that open shot, before it even gets to you, you could be pointing to the next man and hitting pass, and he's going to perform a touch pass. So those are two pretty big features for us to really give you that responsiveness and control in passing.
I'm glad you guys moved the alley-oop off of the B button. So I would hit it like so many times, like on mistake, and throw alley-oop to somebody when I wasn't intended to. So I'm glad you guys moved that away.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. The game sounds amazing, and it sounds almost real authentic. You know, that's what you want in a basketball game. You want something that's close to being as realistic as possible. I just want to ask a question real quick before I jump to the next subject. You know, in NBA Live, one of the things that kind of irritated me about the game was that when I used to play the game, I always felt like I was on ice, like on the court. Like I felt like I wasn't a part of the court, and I would do my moves and try to cross over, and I wound up, you know, ending up out of bounds or in some type of awkward position. Have you guys addressed that in any way, where it's like you now feel like you're a part of the court, you're gripped to the court, and the moves you make aren't, I guess you could say, I won't say robotic because Live never really felt robotic, but you're not moving so fast to the point that you can't control yourself?
Yeah, I think there's a couple things in there, and I'll be a little more critical on us. I do think our movement last year was very robotic, and you know, we introduced a system, and you know how EA loves to trademark, you know, different terms for things, and
right.
we call it live motion, and the reason why is because it's a long explanation on a bunch of different things that sort of come together that give you more realistic and contextually based movement around the basketball court. And it's happening, you know, with CPU controlled players, but also user controlled players as well. And so if you can imagine, you know, we had a lot of procedurally based locomotion, so just general player movement. And what that did was, and I think, to touch on this first, and then I'll get to what you were talking about on just sort of foot sliding a little bit. You know, what that did was just give you that sort of generic movement across the floor. Okay. And so when you look at the game, you're like, it just feels stiff or it looks stiff. And now when you look at it, it just looks more like a basketball game. It's giving you realistic movement. So when a guy is spacing on the three-point line, if he's, you know, making a cut to a basket or going to set a screen, or on the weak side, not anticipating a pass, like your movement is so different based on who you are and then the context of, you know, what's going on with me on the floor at that particular time. So literally adding thousands of animations that are built in the system, and then combining that with, you know, with a physics-based part of it, which helps with physicality. So anytime I'm creating contact, there's a physics-based system that then takes over and gives you realistic movement and the feeling that there's physicality and awareness happening on just the general stuff. Like you can try to visualize and imagine, you know, a defender bumping a cutter, or
right.
Going to set a screen, or coming off a screen and curling that screen. You get that type of, you know, like, you know, shoulder to shoulder, arm to arm, or chest to chest, whatever movement, and doing that in a realistic way, I think really changes the way the game feels and the way it looks when you look at the entire scene on the television. I think the foot sliding thing is a result of, for us last year, a lot of bad animation blending. And we got to a point where, you know, I'm really happy with the quality of our animation, but also with how it blends from one animation to the other. And when we can force you out of animations and let you go, whether it's based on user input or the AI telling us, you know, a CPU controlled player to do something different, that is really tightened up. So I think that the biggest challenge in basketball is just player movement, making it feel good, making it look good. These athletes are so up and you know, in our face.
Right.
We consume the NBA through SportsCenter. We know what everyone looks like, you know, how they play the game, how they dribble, how they shoot. So there's all the expectations for, for that authentic and realistic movement based on player. But then there's also like, well, I'm controlling this guy and I want him to do what I want him to do based on, the input on my controller. And so balancing those two things, I'm really happy with where we got to within gameplay, because I think our characters look amazing. And we sort of call it a frame one problem. And then they started moving. You're like, it's not quite as believable as they were in that screenshot. I'm really happy with the overall player behavior and the player movement to, combined with just how great, the characters actually look and how great the environments look. I think we got to a really good place.
Yeah, and I will say, like, I think as soon as you pick up the sticks and play our game, I think you get this instant feeling of weight. I think it's that, when Sean talks about our physics system, we started with the physics in the paint where you would collide with somebody and really feel that impact. Now that physics system is out on, outside of the paint. So when you, like you said, when you're bumping cutters or, trying to get around a screen, you really feel that in the controls and you see it in animation. But it still maintains believable animation. So you're breaking in and out of these really believable, authentic animations that don't look robotic, but you still feel like you're in control, if that makes sense. And we've added actually some cool off-ball mechanics to that, which, when you're playing in modes where you're player locked or if you're playing off the ball, you can walk a guy down. So if you got, a big who's really strong and you're trying to fight for position, you can go and really walk your man down and try to get position in the paint. On the opposite side, as a defender, you can deny the ball and really feel that physical play happening, and you'll feel your controller rumble, and you'll see the animation where they're hitting each other. So I think there's just so much cool stuff there where, what you're doing on the sticks is translating to what you're seeing, and I think there's that perception of this physicality and this weight in the system.
Wow. You guys brought up a very good thing that I was actually going to mention, which was the physicality and defense. One of the things that I noticed in playing Live 15 was that a lot of times on the drives, if you're playing defense and a player is driving to the rim, it almost felt like your player was just pushed back, and the offensive player was easily able to get to the rim. So something like that addressed in Live 16. Yeah,
absolutely. I think the hardest thing to do in a basketball game is actually guard the basketball, and I think as far as giving the player the control that he or she needs to stay in front of that ball handler, I feel good with where we got there. Your specific example of guys just sort of like bowling ball effect over any help side defender, any defender whatsoever. Yeah, we absolutely did fix that. I think it was something that we knew was there and couldn't address in the time that we had, but it was a priority for this year to give you the ability to actually stay in front of your defender, to have the AI actually be in a position to help you when needed, and be in the right position defensively to help you with the rest of your teammates. And then when you got to that point, again, using physics at that point too, in real-time physics to help with that animation, to give you the sense of who is the player, who's the offensive player, who's the defensive player, who's going to win based on the scenario, and then go from there. But yeah, that you hit the nail on the head. That was a big issue in last year's game, and it kind of left you feeling helpless as a defender. And I feel good about where that's at as well.
Man, the game sounds really, really great. I'm getting excited just hearing you guys talk about it. I have to touch on something that a lot of people kind of miss out of sports titles. And the thing about sports titles is that when you go to a game and you're watching what's happening on the court, people don't recognize how the atmosphere plays such a huge role in sports. How have you guys tried to capture that with the sounds of the game, crowd noise, communication on the court, the whistles, the stadium music or introductions, things like that? Have you guys been able to capture each team's atmosphere in any type of way, as well as the stadium authenticity? How have you guys addressed that?
Yeah, I mean, the presentation is always a big focus for us. And then, again, authenticity is one of our key pillars for our brand. So, we've continued to do things like do arena recordings. So we'll actually send an audio team say OKC and record their their playoff crowd and what that sounds like, and the chants that you hear and the sound effects that you hear. So you'll hear in our game, and it's not all the courts because we need to get to all 30 at some point, but we're chipping away at it and recording arena-specific sounds to give you that atmosphere. We're also doing a lot of the stuff within presentation with, how we trigger our cameras, what the cameras look like, and how they're closer to broadcast with more smoother movement, and it actually looks like a human operator giving you that camera cut to pay off a cool celebration. We did a bunch of new recordings for player chatter, so we really beefed up our player chatter system to give you that audible feedback during gameplay. You'll hear them actually calling out how to play the screen, how to defend the screen, or if somebody's open, they're saying open, open, open to give you that cue to pass. We're also doing a whole new pregame intro where we wanted to get you to the game as quickly as possible, but still pay off what makes the game amazing. So seeing the beautiful environment, how great the players look, and even keying in on things specific to certain teams. So a good example would be if you play with the Cavs, one out of like every few games, you may get LeBron doing the dunk off the backboard during his warm-up. He likes to have fun and then have a little mini dunk contest. Right. But sometimes you might just see him warming up casually. So we tried to create variety there so you just don't feel like you want to skip it every single time. But keep it short enough that you're getting to the tip-off and you're ready to play, because we know that that's what our players want. Right. Yeah. We also scan the arena. So like we record audio, we send a scanning team to the venues to get, the accurate scan right down, like I think to the inch of the arena architecture. The lighting, we measure the lighting there. We scan it for textures, so we get all the photography to build out the environment. And that's not just the NBA stadiums, but that's also our Pro-Am venues like Rucker Park, Venice Beach, Seattle Pacific University, home of Jamal Crawford's Pro-Am, Hoop Dome in Toronto, Terminal 23, exclusive to Jordan Brand in Manhattan. So we take that same level of depth and then, in our process across the whole game.
Wow. That's very nice to hear. Wow. In regards to presentation, I think you guys are definitely one of the best that do it. I love the way that, if you're going to an arena, you got to show a picture of, the outside of the arena. So you know where you're going. It's just like if you were watching a live broadcast. So that's something very nice to see. But in regards to commentary, has commentary been addressed for Live 16?
Oh, yeah, in a very big way. I'm really excited for people to play the game and hear the commentary this year. We continue to record with Breen and Van Gundy, who's the #1 announcing team for ESPN. And so we've got more content with them, more variety. But we're actually we were in a really good place this year to start polishing and tuning the system. So we had all this audio that we've recorded with these guys for years, but we never had the time to really properly tune it so that it fires when you expect it. So what you're going to hear now is way less gaps in time or silence throughout the game where it feels like, well, what happened to the commentators? Where did they go? Right. Now they're going to be really engaged and involved and sound a lot more intelligent. So, if there's a steal that leads to a fast break, you're going to hear them talk about it and call out the player's name and really help build up that moment and anticipation. So really excited about where the commentary is this year. These guys did an awesome job, and you're going to just hear a lot more of it. So expect to hear some good things coming out of there.
That sounds so awesome.
Is my man Jalen Rose still doing the halftime show?
He's still doing it, man. So,
yeah, that's my guy, man.
He does our front end segments. He also we use him to explain some of the new features in a few of the modes and our great players. So expect to hear more of Jalen for sure.
That's awesome.
And we're going to be updating that throughout the year. So as the season, just like we did last year, we're going to be doing more of that. So we'll have audio updates throughout the cycle post launch. So you'll hear new commentary. You'll hear new speech from Jalen. So it's going to be pretty cool. We can be really relevant with the season and what's happening and tell those stories as they happen.
That's pretty awesome. Nice. Now, obviously, we know about the regular game modes that you usually have. You have, player versus player, player versus CPU, franchise mode. What other modes have you guys included in this year that maybe new, that fans could expect to play? And, as far as the All-Star Weekend goes, the theatrics of the All-Star Weekend, have you guys done anything in regards to that as well?
Sorry, what was the last question? I missed that.
It was in regards to the All-Star Weekend. Like, have you guys touched up on anything within the All-Star Weekend, as far as the events and the dunk contest and three-point shootouts and things like that?
Yeah, you wouldn't believe how many times we get asked that, and it's one of our favorite modes. Back in 05, I worked on that game, and we'd love to bring it back. Again, our focus right now is to really just build a great foundation, build a great game, and as we kind of get further along, that's one of those things that we'd all love to bring back. But
right.
No plans for that this year.
Okay.
But what I can talk about is our NBA Live Pro-Am mode. So I don't know if you've seen the trailer or read any of the news, but our biggest feature we're shipping this year modes-wise is NBA Live Pro-Am, and essentially it's a mode based on the real-life Pro-Ams that happen in the summer. So when you're watching basketball in the off season, you're seeing these NBA players play with amateurs in various Pro-Ams, like Jamal Crawford's Pro-Am in Seattle, or at the Rucker at the EBC. In Kezar at the San Francisco Pro-Am out there. Those are all real venues we have in the game. So it's rooted in that. It's rooted in what Pro-Am basketball is in the summer. And there's two ways to play it. So the first way to play it, or one of the ways to play it, is Summer Circuit, and that's our online cooperative mode. So it's you and potentially your buddies playing against the CPU. So you'll go to a venue like Venice Beach, and there'll be 5 games in a tournament style. And to progress to each game, you need to win the first. We'll have different objectives for each game to make them feel unique, and you'll be playing different play styles. So, you may go to game 1 of Venice, and the team's a little bit easier. Maybe they're playing a certain way, but when you get to the 5th game, it's going to be the top NBA players that have played in LA or from LA. Have an association with it, right? So you'd expect to see guys like Russell Westbrook there. Maybe there's a cameo from CP, or guys like Blake Griffin at Venice Beach. But that's essentially what that is. And the cool thing about that is you get to progress through this court and move on to the next one. So you could play at all these different venues across North America and have a very different experience game to game to game, because the way we've designed it is there's different players that show up here, different play styles, and again, different objectives that you're trying to fulfill to complete it. So, and again, based on your level of completion, you're going to have different rewards. So, you're going to be earning skill points, reward points to put towards your progression and customizing your character look. But then you can also unlock special gear, along the way based on, completing the event. So we'll have some really cool gear that we've partnered with Jordan on to make available if you can complete, all 3 stars in every venue, for the game. So that's really Summer Circuit. Live Pro-Am is our competitive 5v5 online mode. So that's where you get to, play with, a bunch of creative players online, play with your friends or against your friends at any of these Pro-Am venues.
Nice.
And that's our competitive game. And these are structured as pickup games. We wanted to keep the length of these games pretty quick, but still have enough time to have fun. So, average game's about 10 minutes or so, and you're playing up to 21. We still have rules on, but, it's catered more around a pickup game up to 21. And we wanted to build a fun environment first before we kind of look at expanding on that. But that's the live Pro-Am.
Awesome. That sounds absolutely amazing.
Yeah, and then I don't know if you guys know about this either, but we're launching our demo on September 15th, and you're going to be able to play Pro-Am for free. So you're going to be playing both Summer Circuit and live run with gated progression. So you can only level up to, I think right now it's 80 OVR. But you'll be able to get a taste of it and play with your friends and create your face on the mobile app on the 8th and really get a chance to try it out. What we've what we've noticed in just that E3 and other events where we've demoed the game is when people try the game for the first time, you know, it's that feeling of control and the way it looks and then how it plays. You really start to really understand the improvements we've made to the game this year. And you're only going to get that if you try it, right? And we're making it as easy as possible for as many people to try the game as much as they can. So look out for the demo on September 15th.
Nice. NBA Live demo drops September 15th. That's going to be on Xbox One, PlayStation, PlayStation 4. Okay, awesome. That's going to be really sick. Brandon, before we head out, is there any last questions that you'd like to ask?
No, not really any questions. I just, in regards to the Pro-Am mode, I think you guys really have something that can be special here. In regards to your competition, I mean, what you guys are doing is something totally different. And there's going to be a fan base that really wants to get into that mode and play that mode and have some enjoyment with that. So I think that what you guys did was very smart. It could definitely be a slam dunk for you because people want to play simulation basketball and they want to play it with their friends and, you know, make their own character. And the Pro-Am that you guys have designed will allow them to do that and not, you know, feel like they're, you know, being cheated, you know. So I applaud you guys for doing that. It's something that's very big, and I hope people actually go out and take a look and give it a try on the 15th.
Thank you, man. We appreciate that.
Yes, definitely. So, obviously, the game is coming out. What is the release of the game?
September 29th on Xbox One and PS4. Again, the demo launches on the 15th on both of those platforms. And then look for the mobile companion app on September 8th, so you can start scanning your face and creating your character. And also, if you're an EA Access member obviously exclusive on Xbox One, the game is available in its entirety on the 24th.
Nice. That's gonna be great.
That is very huge.
That is Xbox. Huge. Yes, it is. I love EA Access.
Very huge for Xbox, especially.
I agree. It's a great program.
Yeah, it really is. Yes. I'm very happy that EA and Microsoft have worked together to get that locked in. And I'm really excited for NBA Live. I want to thank you guys for giving us the opportunity to talk to you about your new game, and I wish you nothing but success. I look forward to playing the game when it comes out, and hopefully we can get you guys on the show for future projects. For sure. Anytime. Anytime, guys. We appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. You guys have a good one. Thank you.